Deep within the dark, oxygen-starved peat bogs of Ireland, a perfectly preserved secret, has been waiting for over 2 millennia to rewrite history. Imagine digging through layers of wet earth, only to lock eyes with a face from 2,400 years ago, frozen in time. This is not the plot of a science fiction movie, but a genuine archaeological breakthrough that has recently stunned researchers worldwide. The discovery of an ancient body in the Irish Midlands initially seemed like a standard archaeological find. However, modern scientific tools soon turned this routine excavation into a profound historical mystery. DNA testing conducted on these ancient remains yielded results that currently defy all conventional explanations. Today we will explore exactly how a routine dig transformed into a scientific puzzle that has left experts completely baffled. To understand the gravity of this discovery, we must first look at the unique environment where the body was found. Peat bogs are essentially wetland areas that accumulate dead plant material, usually sphagnum moss. This environment is highly acidic, incredibly cold, and completely devoid of oxygen. These specific chemical conditions prevent the growth of bacteria that normally cause biological decay. Because of this, bogs act as natural time capsules, preserving organic material like wood, leather, and even human flesh. Skin, hair, and internal organs can survive intact for thousands of years under the surface. It is within these unforgiving yet protective conditions that our 2,400-year-old subject was carefully entombed. The initial archaeological excavation was a delicate and time-consuming process. Local workers harvesting peat first noticed something unusual protruding from the dense, dark soil. They immediately halted their machinery and contacted the National Museum of Ireland. A team of trained archaeologists arrived to carefully extract the remains block by block. They had to keep the body wet and cold to prevent rapid deterioration upon exposure to the air. The entire section of peat containing the body was transported in a custom-built crate to a secure laboratory. This meticulous care ensured that no modern contamination would compromise the vital evidence hidden within the remains. Once safely in the laboratory, the first scientific objective was to determine the exact age of the individual. Researchers turned to radiocarbon dating, a reliable method used to date organic materials. By measuring the decay of carbon-14 isotopes within a small sample of the bone, they pinpointed a specific time frame. The results placed the individual's death right in the middle of the European Iron Age. To be precise, the body dates back approximately 2,400 years ago. This was a time of significant cultural shift in Ireland, marked by the arrival of ironworking and new societal structures. The dating confirmed they were looking at a genuine ancient relic, setting the stage for deeper analysis. The physical examination of the body provided the next layer of crucial historical data. Forensic anthropologists noted that the individual was relatively young at the time of death. Like many other bog bodies found across northern Europe, there were distinct signs of a violent end. The physical trauma suggested this was not a natural death, but possibly a ritual sacrifice or a severe criminal execution. Despite the harsh fate, the facial features and skin were remarkably well preserved by the bog's acids. Researchers could even determine the last meal the person ate by examining the contents of the preserved stomach. However, the external clues could only tell a fraction of the story about who this person truly was. To uncover the deepest secrets of this Iron Age individual, scientists decided to look inward at a microscopic level. They initiated a comprehensive DNA testing protocol to sequence the person's complete genome. Obtaining ancient DNA, often referred to as aDNA, is notoriously difficult under normal circumstances. The acidic nature of the bog, while excellent for preserving skin, actually destroys the chemical bonds of DNA over time. Therefore, the team had to target specific, dense bones like the petrous bone in the skull. This particular bone is incredibly hard and is known to protect DNA fragments much better than other skeletal parts. The extraction process required a highly sterile environment to ensure that the researchers did not accidentally sequence their own DNA. Inside a specialized clean room, scientists wore protective suits to begin the delicate extraction. They drilled a tiny hole into the petrous bone to collect just a few milligrams of bone powder. This powder was then treated with special chemical enzymes to break down the cellular material and release the genetic code. The DNA strands they recovered were highly degraded, broken into incredibly short fragments due to the passage of 2,400 years. Advanced computer algorithms were then required to piece these millions of tiny fragments back together like a massive puzzle. This complex biocomputational process took several months of continuous processing to complete. Eventually, the team successfully generated a readable genetic map of the ancient individual. The sequencing of the genome was celebrated as a massive technical achievement in the field of archaeology. Usually, bog bodies yield less than 1% of endogenous human DNA due to the harsh chemical environment. Yet, the team managed to recover enough high-quality data to perform a deep, comparative analysis. They expected to find genetic markers typical of ancient Celtic populations, or early farmers of the British Isles. The established historical narrative suggests that the people living in Ireland 2,400 years ago were relatively homogeneous. They were believed to be descendants of Bronze Age populations who migrated from mainland Europe centuries prior. The researchers fed the sequenced genome into their database, fully expecting the results to confirm these long-held historical theories. However, as the computer generated the final genetic comparison reports, the laboratory fell completely silent. The genetic markers blinking on the screens did not match the expected profiles of Iron Age Western Europeans. Instead, the data revealed a complex ancestry that immediately puzzled the lead geneticists. A significant portion of the DNA showed strong affinities with populations located thousands of miles away. It was as if someone had taken a genetic code from a completely different continent and placed it in an Irish bog. The researchers checked their equipment and recalibrated their software to ensure no technical errors had occurred. The results remained exactly the same, pointing to an impossible genetic lineage. The anomaly was rooted in specific mitochondrial and Y chromosome haplogroups identified in the sample. These haplogroups act as genetic signposts, tracing maternal and paternal lineages back through human history. The paternal line belonged to a group entirely absent from the genetic record of ancient Britain or Ireland. Furthermore, the maternal lineage showed connections to nomadic groups known to inhabit the distant Eurasian steppes. Finding this specific combination of genetic traits in an individual in Ireland 2,400 years ago made absolutely no sense historically. There were no known migration routes or established trade networks connecting these two vastly separated regions at that time. The scientific team realized they were looking at a piece of evidence that could disrupt current historical paradigms. To verify this inexplicable finding, the team sent blind samples to 2 independent laboratories in different countries. Both international labs conducted their own extraction and sequencing protocols from scratch to eliminate any bias. Weeks later, the independent reports returned, and they mirrored the original findings flawlessly. The mysterious genetic signature was undoubtedly real and belonged to the body found in the bog. Contamination had been definitively ruled out, leaving scientists face to face with an incredibly perplexing historical reality. An individual with distant Eastern genetics had somehow lived, died, and been buried in a remote Irish wetland. The fundamental question immediately shifted from how they sequenced it to how this person actually got there. Historians and archaeologists were quickly brought into the discussion to provide context for the genetic data. They reviewed the archaeological record of Iron Age Ireland to search for any signs of foreign influence. At this point in history, Ireland was largely isolated, with most societal interactions occurring locally or with nearby Britain. While some trade existed with the Roman world later on, contact with the distant Eurasian steppes was considered completely impossible. There are no artifacts, linguistic traces, or historical texts from that era suggesting such long-distance human movement. The DNA was telling a story that the physical archaeological record had completely missed. This single body suddenly challenged the assumption that ancient populations were static and isolated. Several theories began to emerge as scientists attempted to explain the unexplainable. One hypothesis suggests that a very small, isolated group of travelers made an epic, multi-generational journey across Europe. Perhaps they were traders, displaced refugees, or explorers who eventually integrated into the local Irish population. Another theory proposes that human mobility during the Iron Age was vastly more complex than we currently understand. We often underestimate the ability of ancient humans to navigate vast distances without modern technology. However, an entire migration would likely leave more genetic and cultural footprints behind. The isolated nature of this single genetic anomaly makes the migration theory difficult for many scholars to fully accept. Another equally compelling possibility is the ancient practice of taking captives or slaves during regional conflicts. It is well documented that later historical periods involved the movement of captured peoples across great distances. Could this individual have been captured by mainland European tribes and subsequently traded across the continent until reaching Ireland? This could explain how a person with Eurasian steppe genetics ended up in a localized Irish ritual sacrifice. The violent nature of the individual's death strongly aligns with the idea of a captive or an outsider. Being a foreigner with distinct physical features might have made them a target for such grim ceremonies. Yet, tracing such a specific hypothetical trade route over 2,400 years ago remains largely speculative. As news of the discovery leaked to the broader scientific community, debates intensified across academic circles. Some researchers argue that our databases of ancient European DNA are simply too small and incomplete. They suggest that this anomaly might actually represent a hidden layer of genetic diversity that once existed across Europe. If more bodies are found and sequenced, we might discover that these impossible lineages were actually somewhat common. Others firmly maintain that this is a unique outlier, a spectacular historical accident preserved by the bog. The friction between these differing viewpoints highlights the dynamic and ever-evolving nature of historical science. Every new piece of data has the power to either reinforce our knowledge or completely tear it down. The mystery of the Irish bog body also highlights the incredible power of interdisciplinary research. Before the advent of advanced genomics, this body would have simply been catalogued as a standard Iron Age Celt. Archaeology provided the artifact, but genetics provided the narrative twist that nobody saw coming. This fusion of hard biological science with traditional historical study is revolutionizing how we view our past. It forces us to realize that history is rarely a simple, straight line of events in isolated regions. Human history is deeply interconnected, messy, and full of surprising movements that leave silent traces in our blood. This single 2,400-year-old genetic code serves as a perfect testament to that complexity. Educational institutions are already beginning to use this case study to teach students about the scientific method. It perfectly illustrates how researchers must remain objective when empirical data contradicts established beliefs. When the DNA results conflicted with the history books, the scientists did not hide the data. Instead, they rigorously tested it, verified it, and then presented the mystery to the world for collaborative problem-solving. This is the very essence of scientific inquiry, pushing the boundaries of what we accept as factual truth. Students learn that science is not just about finding answers, but also about discovering entirely new, complex questions. The bog body anomaly is destined to become a classic textbook example of modern archaeological science. Moving forward, the research team plans to expand their investigation to other artifacts found near the excavation site. They hope to find trace DNA on weapons, clothing, or tools that might provide further context. Additionally, they are scanning National Museum archives for other previously excavated remains that have not yet been genetically tested. By applying modern techniques to old discoveries, they might uncover a larger pattern of unexplained genetic diversity. Funding has recently been secured to sequence the genomes of dozens of other Iron Age remains across Ireland and Britain. The results of these upcoming tests could either solve the mystery or deepen it even further. The scientific community is waiting with bated breath for the next batch of genetic data. This incredible discovery reminds us that the Earth still holds countless secrets beneath our feet. We often assume that in our modern era of satellites and supercomputers, we have mapped out the entirety of human history. Yet, a single body buried in a cold, wet field can completely upend decades of academic consensus. It challenges historians to keep an open mind and embrace the unknown variables of our collective past. The ancient people of the Iron Age were clearly more dynamic, mobile, and complex than we ever gave them credit for. As technology continues to advance, we must be prepared to rewrite the history books time and time again. The past is not a static picture, but a vibrant puzzle that we are still slowly piecing together. In conclusion, the 2,400-year-old body found in the Irish peat bog remains an unsolved enigma. The DNA testing proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that an individual from a distant land died in prehistoric Ireland. Scientists currently cannot explain the exact mechanism, route, or reason for this person's presence, so far from their ancestral home. Whether they were a nomadic explorer, a captive slave, or evidence of a forgotten ancient migration, their truth is buried with them. This ongoing investigation stands as a testament to the relentless human pursuit of knowledge and truth. It forces us to look closer at the shadows of history and question everything we thought we knew. The mystery of the bog body continues, a silent echo from the past, demanding to be understood. If you want to see more videos exploring the unexplained mysteries of our past, Please leave a like, share your theories in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us uncover more of these incredible scientific anomalies. Until the next video, stay curious and see you then.